Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me and following me here to Monday. This weekend, I taught one of my, the first part of my 5-part series for biotuning practitioners, so it's been a busy weekend for me. It's an intensive, so it's 7 hours a day, Saturday, Sunday, and next weekend, and the weekend after on Saturday. So thanks for following me here on Monday. Next weekend is also going to be Monday because I'm teaching Saturday and Sunday next week too. So just be aware of that. Boy, that's wrong. Let's see here. Every week this seems to happen. The wrong thing is there. I check it, I double check it, and then when it is here, it's not there. I think it's funny. I don't understand, but I'll find it. Let's see here. This is the correct one. Scientificsounds.com, being of service. That is the soundtrack for today. That's where you go to get it. For those of you who are new, we use headphones. At the end, we listen to a soundtrack. It has brain entrainment frequency. It links everybody's brainwaves together. We're doing this to cause a sort of a large group mind link. Aligning people's consciousness together in the same place gives power, more power than one person would have by themselves, to make deep change in your life and hopefully the world. This is where you can go to make comments or ask questions about anything we cover here. scientificsounds.com/ask-a-question. This is where you go to my YouTube channel where you can see all the live streams I've done at this point. Information builds one live stream to the next, so I will make reference to things I've covered in the past in great detail. So go back and watch previous ones. Recent experiences have galvanized my mind towards the concept of pure service, being a service to other people and being in service to the world with no thought of return, no thought of an alternative agenda of some kind, of the reason why I might be doing it. It's pure from the heart, giving for its own sake. This follows ancient traditions that have gone on in every culture of selfless giving. And you don't have to be a saint in order to participate. Free for everyone to do. Sometimes the most simple act of not walking past someone in need, or not turning a blind eye to the person sitting on some folding chair with a little table outside of the supermarket who's trying to do something. It might break a mold to stop and to give them the time of day and see what they're doing. Or stop by a homeless person, then buy them a meal, or give them some money, or do something. Not pass by the person who has a flat tire, but stop and help them out. Small acts like stopping and allowing a car to come out and get into traffic ahead of you. Make sure that the merge lanes let somebody in. Wave and give them a smile. Something different, something breaks the mold. It changes a person's whole day when something like that happens. It restores our faith in humanity, right? We could all use a good dose of that, I think. in these strange and crazy sort of times. Go here. The first act of service that any of us tend to experience is your mother. Your mother's act of service that's selfless and is not looking for a payment is carrying you in the womb for 9 months. Selfless service. The mother and father raise you for many, many, many years. Selfless service. The concept, any of you who are parents out there know what I'm talking about. There's selfless giving to your own child. And it's the same kind of thing that extends out into your family at large. We tend to treat extended family members that way. Our own mother and our own father, we give selflessly to support them. Aunts and uncles, extended family members tend to also get that. Human beings are very different when no money is involved. As soon as money's involved, something happens, people get different. When there's no power or influence or money involved, then the population of human beings is very different than otherwise. And that extends to every country on the planet. For anyone who has ever traveled to other countries and over other cultures, as strange and as weird and as different as the language or the cultural traditions might be, underlying all of that, people are people are people. Everyone has the same drives. Everyone treats their family members the same. Parents treat their children the same. It's out of love and out of service. People may not put that term in their own head, but they're being of service anyhow, with no thought of return. Extending that, eventually you become of service to your parents when they get older. It's you are the one who helped to take care of them. It becomes a full circle. Concept of paying it forward. You give freely of something that has no thought of return, simply for the sake of doing good, and that comes back to you. You give freely to someone, and now it's their turn to give freely to someone else to pay it forward. There's a universal balance that goes on here. There's something about that of helping someone else and giving somebody a helping hand and helping them out, just because that's the right thing to do, cosmically, in your conscience. People with a well-developed conscience can't pass someone by who's in need. And more than anything else, when I look upon the world and I look at the world situation and the politics and the governments and the this and the that, you penetrate through all of it. You see that the world tends to be divided into two classes of people, which forms the political battles that we see in the world. And that's the people who believe that we're all in this together, and it's difficult to pass someone by who's in need. Your knee-jerk conscience response is that we need to help each other, that you can't walk by, that you do have to help. And then there's the other group who is pretty much selfish, and I've got mine and screw you. We're all in this together, or I've got mine, screw you. I've got my own problems. Those two great classes of people and attitude is what forms the politics of the world. So I believe that it's the more evolved spirit who has a well-developed conscience and finds it more and more difficult to pass someone by who's in need, or to look upon the world and have to do something. That if it's within your power, that you can't sit by, that you're here with the tools to help, then you need to. It's your responsibility. It's sort of what separates the men from the boys, so to speak. So this concept of no one is truly a stranger. Everyone is a brother and sister. Strangers, just people you haven't got to know yet. But when you do know, you realize we're all the same, that we all have the same needs, we all have the same desires. Underlying everyone, there is a goodness. If you go deep enough, people who are bad, people who are people who are traumatized, people who have had something happen to them once they've been born. I guess statistically it is possible that in the genetic makeup of human beings you could be born bad. And I'm sure there's probably some percentage of people that perhaps are like that. But that's not the 99.9% experience that any of us have. People act out of need, and there was nobody to help them at the time, so they hardened their soul and treated everyone else the same. So some of that has to do with what happens in our childhood, how I was brought up. I was blessed to have been brought up in a really wonderful family. Everybody loved my parents. I had a great childhood. I was a military kid and I traveled my whole life, and I had my own traumas, which I've discussed before. Military kids have all their best friends torn away from them every 3 years, so it's a sort of ritual of dying. Your friends, your best friends all die, and you never see them again, ever. You don't have a hometown. You don't have old friends that you went to grade school with. But you have a series of new hometowns every place you move to. Every time you're stationed to some new place, the military families in that area close in around you and welcome you to this new place, knock on your door and give you things and invite you to dinner and parties and include you. That becomes your new hometown. But early on, you, with that kind of experience or other similar kind of experiences, you learn as a child that it's okay to help somebody else and to give and to show kindness and go out of your way to welcome someone who's an outcast in your school or your job or your neighborhood or whatever, your family. It's an attitude in your heart that you listen to. Anyhow, we all have busy lives and we all have schedules that we're racing to, and I'm late and I'm driving down the highway and somebody's broken down on the side of the road, and I do pass them by. I don't have time. I have to get there, whatever. Those things, that forms the measure of the story of our life. There's no sin in any of this. But at that point of time, when I pass that person by, I know I'm doing it. I haven't hardened my heart. It's not because I don't care. At least I'm conscious of it. But when we participate in these things, we're in the company of the greatest people that have lived. Only a life lived in service to others is worth living. I mean, really? Albert Einstein said that? That's pretty cool. Or being of service is not an option. It is a biological necessity. Every kind of action we do for someone is a reanimation of our own life force and of the other person's. You know, basically 4.5 billion years ago, when the Earth was just cooling off and forming oceans, and we had, you know, the primordial soup bubbling around with little creatures first rising, and we've got all these little single-cell organisms duking it out for the food, and all of a sudden something changes, and they begin to form communities of cells working together. They form symbiotic relationships because all of a sudden it becomes apparent that it's a better life solution to work together than it is to compete. So that forms the first multicellular organisms that are symbiotic relationships of organisms that are working together. And that continued, and it began to catch on, and pretty soon the multicellular organisms were becoming you and me, crawling out of the ocean, and here we are. As I've said before, you know, your body is 70% water, and that water is a saline solution water. It's salty. It's like the ocean on the inside. So essentially this is an oceanic spacesuit that has the ocean on the inside, so us as water beings can step out on land with a water spacesuit filled with water. We're water beings who've adapted. But I think she's onto something here. A biological necessity. There's a drive in my biological system itself, in my cells themselves, to work together, to align together, to synchronize up together, to help one another out and fill in the gaps of the weak spots of the other system. I spent a whole live stream talking about the mind-blowing idea that 99% of who I think I am as a biological creature is actually other creatures with different DNA. My body, with my DNA, forms 1%. The rest is biome and creatures that live all over my skin and all over my organs. And, you know, I mean, there's a species of microscopic creature that lives in my eyelashes. You'd need a microscope to see them, but that's the state of affairs. It's a monstrous, multicellular, infinitely complex, symbiotic relationship of creatures going on just in my own body. There's a biological imperative to connect, to synchronize up, to help one another, because it's a better survival outcome to do so. So I like this one. Service is the rent we pay for being. It is the very purpose of life and not something you do in your spare time. That once you step down this path of opening your heart to being of service, service, selfless service for nothing in return, to help someone out, it will come back to you. Whenever you do something that is selfless and you just give it forth with no thought of return, you have now created debt in the universe. The universe is in a state of constantly balancing the books in great minutiae, down to the nth possible degree. Everything in the universe is ecological. There is no waste. Everything is self-contained, and all systems work together in a grand synchronicity where all of it is actually just one big thing. It's not me and you. it's me with capital M, right? It's one giant thing. So of course it's synchronized up and helping itself. When I give freely to the universe, to the world, and anything in it, I'm giving to myself, essentially. And the universe now has debt and has to balance those books. So something will come to me. There's a difference between offering a service and being willing to serve. They may both include giving, but only one is generous, because offering a service is always for something in return. But being willing to serve is a whole different animal. No thought of something coming in return. Pure givingness of my soul, something in my heart can't look away. Magic happens when you tell the universe what you want it to do for you. Miracles happen when you ask how you can be of service to the universe. Marianne Williamson, by the way, she really has some stuff. I know her. I know her through Louise Hay. So the concept of this idea of giving, the idea of being service that's selfless, it's an ancient idea, and it definitely changes you. Change yourself, change the world. We believe in the inherent generosity of others and aim to ignite that spirit of service. Through our small collective acts, we hope to transform ourselves and the world. In one sense, that's what these live streams are all about. Selfless service to stand up and do something about the situation that I find myself in my own life and in the state of the world. It occurred to me when the pandemic hit, 2 years ago, that this is a very stressful time for everyone. People were afraid of dying or catching this disease and ending up in the hospital and dying alone. Businesses were closing down. People were losing their jobs. It was a horrible period. And the concept of the news talking about a global pandemic, countries are closing their borders and on and on. It was a very stressful time. And, I realized that as an expert in stress reduction technologies, with knowledge of the fact that I believe that stress is the ultimate cause of disease, and I have technologies to deal with it as a world sort of expert, and realizing that when you're running a stress response, it weakens your immune system, and you don't want to have a weak immune system in a pandemic, I realized that I had the tools to help do something about this situation, and I could not sit by and do nothing. And also I'm officially in a public figure. And the reason I'm a public figure is because I behave that way. Recognition comes to you when you do these things. You're not doing them for recognition. It's kind of amusing to see that you're getting maybe recognition for things that you do for no recognition. It's a Zen thing, right? As long as you want it, you can't have it. But as soon as you give up the idea, the universe hands it to you for free. But stepping forward as an expert in stress handling, to start these live streams to help people deal with the stress of that situation and play a stress reduction soundtrack, and then give that soundtrack away for free every week to help people get through the stress. evolved immediately into this, what we're doing now, which turned more into the concept that I had been kicking around for 20 years of this global brainwave entrainment mind link idea that brought the forces together of ancient knowledge from, say, the Vedas, 4,000-year-old text from India, and current information that's in the news every week from quantum physicists about the nature of reality at a quantum field. And the more we read about the nature of reality in a quantum field, the more it aligns word for word with what's been talked about in 4,000-year-old texts from India in Sanskrit, or in Chinese from the I Ching, 5,000-year-old texts, all talking about this same thing, that we're intimately connected with the universe. We arise out of the universe. We're not visitors here. And not only do we arise out of the universe, but we arise out of the universe like my fingers arise out of my hand. And my hand arises out of my body. And my body arises out of me. And I arise out of the quantum field. It's an idea in the mind of infinite spirits, so to speak. All of the things in the world and all the people in the world are part of the same continuum. There is no such thing as a stranger. There's an old Arab proverb that you cannot look away from the face of God, because every place you look is God, and who's looking is God. It's all one big thing, separated up into what appears to be different pieces, but we know that's not true. Like I mentioned before, the Tibetan Buddhist idea that the godhood divided into an infinite number of finite parts, and each part became a person, a thing, a living being that was caused to forget, and then entered into the grandest heroic journey of all time to discover the true meaning of my soul, my true identity. What is that? And when all those roads lead back to the same spot, the same place, that place is the infinite godhood, which forms the whole thing. Where I discover the true nature of my soul is that all of us are the same. At the deepest core of ourselves, there's just one. A student asked the master, how is the best, most perfect way of treating other people? Because that drills to the core of what we're talking about, of being service to others selflessly. What is the best way of treating other people, of being with other people? And the answer was, there are no other people. They don't exist. It's an illusion. You give freely to others, you're giving freely to yourself, because ultimately it's all the same thing. And it changes you. And that changes the world. It's this feedback loop. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. There was back in the 60s, there was a guru, Meher Baba. When Meher Baba was young, a young man from India, he was very dashing looking, with long black hair, an amazing chiseled face, and then when he grew older and became, the older, wizened one, he looked funny, had a big nose, and he looked like a street vendor in New York City. He was kind of a funny-looking guy, but I remember I had this sort of a business card thing with a picture of him like this with beads, with that funny-looking face of his. And it said, don't worry, be happy. That was the message. It was like, for me, I loved it because my brain is like the big brain. I've got the big scientific brain. I've got the big cosmology brain with all the answers and all the ancient texts and how the ancient stuff mixes with the quantum stuff, and I've got it all figured out, right? Up here. And it's all baloney. It's like underlying all that is the simplest possible solution. Without all that stuff, bypass all that stuff, cut through all that stuff. Don't worry, be happy. It sort of pokes a stick in the eye of all the big thoughts that I have and the way my mind works. It was the same thing with the years I spent with Louise Hay. I was the big brain and she was the big heart, you know. And we would go out on a Friday night to dinner at our favorite little restaurant, and in San Diego, she had a place in San Diego. So we're going to get in her little car, which was this funny little blue-colored Fiat, one of those little tiny mini cars, right? Here's somebody who could have, actually had a Rolls Royce at one time and gave it away because it was okay to have it for a while just because you could do it, but it wasn't really as fun as the little stupid little car, right? A little Fiat. So we drive downtown to our favorite restaurant on a Friday night, and there's no possibility of having a parking place. That's not going to happen. Ain't going to happen. On a Friday night, are you kidding me, in San Diego to this really nice restaurant? No, not going to happen. But when we would get there, we'd turn a corner, there's a parking place right in front of the restaurant. This is impossible. And every time we would go, there would be a damn parking space in front of the place. It was like a mind blower. One time there was 2 parking places right next to each other in front of this restaurant on a Friday night. It just blew my mind, and I would say, Louise, how is this possible? How are you doing that? And she said, I don't know. Life loves me. It was like Meher Baba again. It was like, that's it? I mean, I'm looking for the mathematical explanations in the quantum field of how all of this around the chance and the probabilities and cut through all of that stuff. I don't know, God loves me. It's like, wow. It's no more complicated than that. So throw all the stuff out of your brain, follow your conscience, and it becomes very difficult to pass someone by who's in need. Very difficult. Cosmically, and from the esoteric traditions, the only time when it's truly cosmically okay to turn away is if it would do me harm to help. That's where the line has to be drawn. However, there are certain times when even that gets thrown in the fire. And the good example is a parent with their child. A parent would throw their life away in order to save their child from harm or death. And that's the blessing of parenthood, is to finally, for the first time in your life, arrive at an experience in a place in your heart where you would freely give away your own life for the sake of your child. That's a new one. Very hard to come to that place with any other experience. But there you have it. All of us in it together, all of us helping one another. Imagine what the world would be like if that was the set rule. The set rule, the social contract among us all is the default would be to help and not walk away. There are some cultures that are more that way than others. Friendly, supportive cultures where people don't walk away, they do help. But ultimately, whoever you are and whatever language you speak, or wherever you come from, or whatever you look like, or whatever the color of your skin, underlying all of that, it's humanity itself. We're all cells in the same body. And helping one another out should be the default mode of function of humanity itself. That was an example of not reaching out from the goodness of your heart. It was an advertiser trying to sell me something. This is the opposite of that in every way you can possibly imagine. Giving freely from your heart for the sake of service to others, with nothing in return. The spiritual path is simply the journey of living our lives. Everyone is on a spiritual path. Most people just don't know it, and that's absolutely 100% true. I've fleshed that idea out many times in these live streams, the concept that we are on the grandest heroic journey of all time, and we're hypnotized into believing that this is ordinary, that I'm an ordinary person, and that this is an ordinary reality, and people have names and have jobs, and they work their whole lives in those jobs, and they have children, and they go to movies and watch television until you get old and go into a nursing home and die. That's life. Nope. That is a life that you may choose if you decide to become completely 100% asleep to your cosmic nature, and the fact that it's the grandest, most unbelievable miracle of all time to be alive here in the biggest game in the universe, where you get a body in the biggest game in the universe to do with whatever you wish. You can transform this life into anything you can conceive. But first of all, you have to conceive it. First of all, you have to have that dream. You have to flesh it out until it touches your emotions. And then that dream gets deposited into the universe and magnetizes the universe to make it so. But you can't go to that dream from a standpoint of making it real if you don't believe it in the first place. If you believe that this is ordinary, not extraordinary, not magical, every atom in your body was once inside a star. All the protons in all the atoms in your body are the oldest particles in the universe. It's magical beyond belief. And true spiritual experiences, enlightening experiences, is what you experience. You experience the magical nature of being alive. Just simply that. Me, here, talking to you, washing a dish, opening the door, getting on my hands and knees in the grass in my front yard and looking down between the grass blades. There's a whole world down there, little creatures crawling around. That's their world. Some giant jungle with giant, grass blades going 300 feet into the sky. There's an infinite number of worlds all nested together here. Nothing about it is ordinary. So therefore, never apologizing for being yourself, because who yourself is a magical being here for a very specific purpose. And we're all in this together, all of us magical beings, It's like, I said this one before too, there's the Universal Olympics. It's the swimming race, and you won. You won the gold. Your sperm hit the egg first. Out of 50 million sperm, yours hit the egg first. You won. You won that race. You know what it takes to pull out every ounce of whatever it takes from your toenails to push yourself more than anyone else and win. And the prize? A body in the biggest game in town, the biggest game in the universe. Here we all are, all of us. We're all Olympic gold medal winners, every single one of us. We already know what it takes to push beyond and to go for the brass ring and to grab that ring, to get it, to win it. We already have that. It's in our DNA. We know how to do that. So don't tell me that you don't know, and that you don't have the energy, and that you don't believe that you're special. You are the most special being that the universe could produce to win the medal and be populated in this world with other gold medal winners, including the richest person on earth, the most successful person you can imagine, the greatest spiritual master that you can conceive of, and a bum in the gutter in the Bowery in New York City are all gold medal winners. We all know what it takes. Make the world more beautiful. You should leave the world more beautiful than you have found it when you were born. Then you have done some service to existence. Leave the world a better place than you found it. It's your legacy. It's your legacy to the world. It's your legacy that you leave your children. It's the legacy you leave humanity, whether you have children or not. Selfless service, using the talents that make you unique in the universe, are there for a specific purpose. And some of it is to give it back. It's to share it out, to form symbiotic relationship with the universe itself and the things in it. A group of women in Kampala, Uganda, who earn about $1.20 a day breaking rocks into gravel, sent $900, think how much work that would be, $900 of their wages to help Hurricane Katrina victims in 2005. Who are these people? What? Really? And it's just some person sitting in the dirt, living in a hut somewhere, that gave this much of their soul. There's millions of stories out there. You will hear none of them. They're not the ones that make the news. But selfless acts of service like this all over the world take place every single day in ways that we would never know. All we see is the corporate-sponsored news, which tends to be the spectacular news of the big disaster or someone breaking the law or this or that or whatever. It's news with an agenda to excite and entertain and advertise for you to buy something. That is not the real news of the world. This is the real news of the world. The true and real state of humanity. Ordinary, quote, ordinary people doing extraordinary things from the depths of their heart. That puts the rest of us to shame. This guy, MMA fighter, these television guys who battle each other out on television for money. This guy, Justin Wren, left the octagon, the fighter thing on television, for the past 5 years has been fighting slavery and oppression in Africa. Wren has helped dig wells for clean water, grow and harvest food, and bought land that was taken from the Pygmy people. He's also working to replant trees in the areas deforested by companies seeking to exploit minerals there. He stopped fighting people to start fighting for the people. Another of the infinite stories that are out there. These stories are, what happened to this guy? What shifted in his consciousness to make him leave everything and go do this? Why? What happened? That's the story I want to know. What made such a profound change in this guy's life? What took place that pushed him over the edge from a career on television fighting people for big-time money, fame and fortune? And this, it's amazing to me. It's the Dalai Lama's answer when he was asked what surprised him the most. Man surprises me most about humanity because he sacrifices his health in order to make money. Then he sacrifices money to recuperate his health. And then he is so anxious about the future that he does not enjoy the present. The result being that he does not live in the present or the future. He lives as if he is never going to die, and then dies having never really lived. No comment. But the path that you choose in your life is your choice. Each of us has this in front of us, this road that stretches out with forks that go this way and that way. Choosing the correct force of the paths in your life, it always has to come from your heart. It can't come from your thinking part. Thinking part will try to figure out if it's going to be safe to go there. How am I going to make it work for me? That's not your job. It's the universe's job to do that part for you when you choose the correct fork and walk that path. Those paths always lead to enlightenment, to the best experiences you could ever have in your life. Those are the paths that open up the magic life. It's each one of us looking beyond what we consider to be ordinary and realize that we're a child of the universe, that we're here for the grandest purposes that are beyond the capacity of our ordinary mind to even conceive. It's me following something in my conscience, in my heart, that pulls me. And when I follow it, I'm never wrong. Something grand comes from it, always comes from it. And then you're in the company of the greatest people that have ever existed, the ones who have accomplished that, the ones who have let go, the ones who have become enlightened in their heart and soul, and become a symbol for others to follow. That's not a world where these people are somehow special. They followed it all the way through. They walked that path as it opened before them and continued to do that. And the world became a magical place for them. So all these paths lead to me ultimately being of service to myself, selflessly, honoring me, honoring my own soul, honoring the fact that I am here and that I'm here to do something. And so by honoring the true reality of why I'm here, then I realize that I am here to be of service. And to make the world a better place for everybody, including me. So ultimately, being a good example is the best form of service. That living up to the ideal of who I could be, as a shining example of what a human being could be. Before I can go there, I have to even conceive what that might look like. What would it be like if I was a perfect person, or if I had my mind and my heart melded together, and I followed my heart and allowed it to happen, sort of fearlessly. And that's sort of where we are going with this. Someplace in the center of my consciousness is the knowledge of what I'm here for. And what I'm here for is to flesh out this world and make it a more perfect place. And that begins in the heart. And it involves everyone I meet and everyone I know about. To meld and form symbiotic relationships and make the path easier for anyone and everyone I can find or see or know. Being of service can happen 1,000 times a day in all kinds of different activities that are small and don't seem to be anything. Just opening the door for someone and giving them a smile. Never looking at an employee as an employee, but as a human being who happens to have a job to try and make ends meet, Everybody's got their story. Everybody can use your help in some way, shape, or form. So give it. And with that, here we go with our headphones. Eyes closed, and here we go. Oh, sorry, that seemed to have cut off slightly at the end. It won't be that way with the one that you download. Remember that next weekend is not Sunday, it's going to be Monday again because I'm teaching that workshop. Thank you all for being here, and I will see you next Monday.